Hey, well, it's Huck. How are you? You know what? It has been a little over 9 weeks now since I've been cooped up in the house here, basically. I have ventured out, gotten in my car, taken a little drive around town or whatever, a few times. 3 times now in 9 weeks, I've actually gotten out of my car and gone into a building. I think once I had to go get milk. I think one time I went into a Family Dollar store to get some dog food, maybe a couple of items. I think I talked about that. At any rate, 3 times now I ventured out. But for the most part, including just yesterday, I have been ordering my groceries, for instance, online and having them delivered to my house. Or one time I went to the store and had them, curbside put in my trunk. But for the most part, again, because of my particular lung disease, I have to take extraordinary precautions. And, I mean, I could talk at some length about what's been going on here and all of the misinformation that's out there and this whole, avalanche of, of uh, really poor judgment that has gotten on the bandwagon to try to lure you and me back out into the world. And the fact is, um, we know enough about this virus in general to know that it is extremely transmissible. We also know that we are still learning what it can do. But what we know for sure is that it affects a number of organs in the human body. We know that it can cause blood clots and cause, strokes and heart attacks. We know that for a significant percentage of folks, it creates tremendous lung disease and shortness of breath. And a small percentage of people are going to end up in the ICU on ventilators and may never come off of it and die there in the hospital. Um, so all of these folks that are out there saying, enough, you're interfering with my freedom. This is such bullshit. Uh, the only thing I can tell you is, use your head. I think it is criminal that, largely the Republican Party uh, is forcing people to make a choice. Either go back to work or lose whatever benefits you may be enjoying off of work, like unemployment, uh, and basically starve. So risk your life or starve. And the point is, yeah, it's probably true that 90-95% of people are probably going to be exposed to this virus at some point and come out of it the other side, not that much worse for the wear. At least that's what it seems like at this point. It's still early, so we don't know the long-term effects of people that have been exposed to the virus. Um, but what we do know is about 5% are going to have severe symptoms, and a smaller percentage are going to have fatal consequences. And and the point is, we do not know enough about who it's going to, take such a toll on. Um, sure, we know that the vast majority of people that have died from this have had some type of pre-existing condition, but that can, something like 60-65% of people um, in America have some type of pre-existing condition. So that's literally most of us. Um, you're hearing a lot of talk right now about, particularly by Trump, encouraging people to go back to work, go back to school. And one of the things we know is that this virus continues to evolve. We know, for instance, that there are a number of cases that are affecting children, and we don't know why. We don't know why some children seem to be picked out for this inflammatory disease, but we know that something like 19 kids or so in the New York City area have come down with very serious cases of this, similar to Kawasaki disease, I guess. Um, and some kids have died from it. I know they're having issues with this in some other countries, particularly in the UK. And it's not just in New York City. We're seeing it start crop up more, and we don't know whether or not maybe this is a later effect of the disease, that emanates from people that maybe were previously exposed to this virus, and then this is something that happens down the road, or whether it's maybe because the virus itself is mutating and this is a new manifestation of it. We know that the virus has um, evolved. We know that there are different strains of COVID-19, if you will. Um, those that were affected on the West Coast seem to have a different strain than those that were affected in New York, which, for the most part, those people got the European uh, version, if you will. So there's a lot of uncertainty with this virus at this point. But the one thing that the experts have been very adamant about and continue to be adamant about is that when you have something like this that is so highly transmissible that people can carry for a week or even two without even realizing they're carrying it and not even realizing that they are transmitting it to other people. Um, when you have something this dangerous that has already taken 85,000 lives in America, and probably more, because that's probably an undercount. And these folks out there that are saying that we're overcounting is just a fallacy, and again, it's just another attempt to try to deflect just how poorly this country has done on handling this virus. Um, at any rate, the point is that you must be careful. And all of this talk about opening up businesses, the Wisconsin Supreme Court overruled their governor. The several state legislatures have including here in Ohio, are attempting to overrule, the state health directors and their governors. And again, it's all a political stunt to try to, I think, undercut the proof that Donald Trump and his administration have badly, uh, you know, blundered their way in dealing with this virus, and really have kind of just flat out uh, decided they're not going to handle it at all. On the one hand, they tell all the governors, well, you do the work. You determine what your needs are and what your policies should be. You get all of the PPE and the ventilators or anything else that you may require to deal with this. You get your own test kits and everything else that goes along with testing people, and leave the federal government out of it. And then at the same time, when he's directing governors to take charge, he's undermining their efforts to do the right thing by encouraging, a revolt against any, safety precautions whatsoever that they take. Even to the extent where they're trying to limit the amount of testing um, that's going on. We know from the CDC guidelines that had been written before this pandemic ever started, just from previous pandemics um, concerns, that there are certain things that should be in place before we begin to, open up businesses, open up schools. And none of those things are in place. We don't have, a 14-day of declining, new cases. We certainly aren't testing everybody so that we can assess who has been exposed, who may be contagious and quarantine them. And we certainly don't have in place some system where we can trace each of those people's contacts and determine whether or not those folks should be under quarantine uh, as well. In fact, we don't have any kind of contact tracers, to speak of anywhere. So it seems like the only place that's doing any of that is the White House itself. And yet they're the ones that are directing everybody else to ignore these, sensible guidelines. I think it took till yesterday, only because of tremendous pressure, that the media had put on the administration for the CDC to finally release exactly what its guidelines were for businesses to reopen, for schools to reopen, for sporting events, to reoccur. And, in those guidelines, is a lot of common sense, none of which are being followed. And it's quite detailed as I understand it. I know Rachel Maddow yesterday had, a summary of some of the things that are contained uh, in these guidelines. And again, the Trump administration and Republicans in power all across the country are basically ignoring all of that. Use your head, for crying out loud. Uh, Follow the guidelines of the experts. You know, at any rate, I, on the other hand, am coming to you today, by the way, on a new format. I don't know if you've noticed. I have been for a long time now making all my videos using my cell phone. And one of the reasons why I haven't been posting as many videos or as frequently is because I've basically used up most of the free space on my, internal storage of my cell phone. Um, I'm very pleased with the free phone that I got with my phone service. Um, and basically the camera quality and the audio quality of my cell phone is really quite good, I think. But the fact is, I tend to make pretty long videos, and lately, for the last couple of months, every time I go to make a video, the damn thing shuts off about 5, 6, 7 minutes in, and it's because it tells me that I've run out of space. And so I have to go in and start deleting things, and there's not a lot of stuff that I want to delete that's on my phone. So I don't keep any videos, and I don't have like a whole lot of pictures or anything on my phone. So I have to start deleting like actual programs or apps or whatever. Um, and it just gets to be a hassle. And, I swear I probably start making a video once or twice or even three times uh, and then run into that nagging problem. And finally, in frustration, because I can't seem to, decide on what to delete, I give up for a few days until I finally have enough patience to make enough room to make a video. And well, anyway, I got tired of it all. Now I have a really nice desktop that I've had for some time, and it's not. Don't get me wrong, it's not a $2,000 machine or something, and it's certainly not up to some of the standards you see today. Um, and for instance, it's not an i3 or an i5 or an i7 or whatever. I think it's a quad core, though, I think is what my desktop is. But it doesn't have a webcam. And so I'm kind of missing out on certain things that I would really like to do. Um, I would like to do some video conferencing, like Zoom or Skype or whatever. And I don't have a webcam to do that. I have some friends that get together, in a group or whatever, and they're scattered all over the country, really. And in fact, one lives in England, and they have invited me to a couple of these things. And because I don't have a webcam, I can't really take part. So finally, I had it. As you know, I get a lot of help financially, and I depend on that help to pay all my bills so that I can, frankly, eat and pay all my, medical bills and buy my medicine every month and all of that. and I couldn't justify using any of that money that I am, receiving from, your generosity, to buy something as frivolous as, a webcam. So I waited until I got my stimulus check, which I finally did, and I took a very small portion of that, and I got this webcam and I actually ordered a camera, or I mean, I actually ordered as well. I guess they call it a USB microphone. It's not one of the real expensive ones, because you can spend $100 or more on a USB mic. But I did buy one that hasn't come yet, and so that with the webcam here, I'm hoping that running out of space to make videos isn't going to happen anymore, and I will be able to post a little bit more frequently. I hope. I'm not real disappointed in this. The color saturation of this webcam isn't what I was hoping, but it is HD, and one of the things I noticed with webcams is that the movements tend to be kind of jerky a lot of times, even on some of the really good webcams. And so I'm kind of pleased as I'm watching this one that this one seems to be actually a little better at movement, and my lips don't look like they're moving in spasms or whatever. Now, I did purchase one other thing with my stimulus check. Don't get me wrong, I didn't spend most of my stimulus check. Most of it is going towards bills, but I made one other purchase along with the webcam and the microphone. And that was, one of the things that definitely usually helps me with my condition is from time to time I have signed up for pulmonary rehab exercise sessions, and they really have helped me. I think to be as active as I can be, and it has been months. In fact, I had just signed up to restart another 10-week session when all of this COVID-19 business started up, and so frankly, I don't believe that they will be able to reinstitute those pulmonary rehab sessions anytime soon, simply because those of us who were in there were all people with, lung illness for the most part, and we're just so highly vulnerable that I can't see how they could, risk, getting us all together again and exposing us to the, possibility of somebody, one of the therapists, for instance, possibly unknowingly bringing in the virus and exposing us all. It's the same kind of situation that is going on right now in nursing homes and prisons, for that matter. Is that you've got some cases very vulnerable populations that that once exposed, there's they're just so highly susceptible to the to the more serious consequences of this virus. So it has been, I'm way overdue for having these exercises, and so I went out. I really did research this quite a bit before I finally made a purchase, but I ordered a little stationary bicycle, if you will, but I didn't buy one of those full size recumbent, layback exercise bikes like we work out at the at the pulmonary rehab facility. I bought one of these small portable devices that you sit on the floor. You can sit in any chair, or your couch for that matter, and pedal away. And it keeps track of some simulated distance or whatever. It has a timer on it, or you can set it to keep track of how long you're on it. It even tries to calculate like how many calories, for instance, that you may be burning. At any rate, what's nice about this floor unit is that you can also put it on a tabletop, and use it as an arm bike, which is another of the exercises that we did out at pulmonary rehab. And I paid like all of $55 for this thing. Um, I almost bought one of the full size floor model things that cost like closer to $200, and I ended up canceling that order and buying this. And um, and I'm happy that I did because this is working out pretty fine. I know I'm really out of shape. Typically, at the rehab sessions, they start you off with a number of stretches and other little exercises, and then they put you on this stationary bike for like 15 minutes. And eventually, after a number of sessions, they kind of work you up to 20 or 25 minutes. And same thing with the arm pedaling. They eventually get you on that, and again, they start you off with about 15 minutes and try to work that up to something longer. Well, the first time I tried using this here last week when it first came, I couldn't do 10 minutes without being, gasping for air. Um, but, after a couple of days of using it, I worked my way up to 30 minutes. Now, it's very low impact. This is not the kind of exercise bike routine that, like for those of you that, have those kind of, exercise bikes where with the big screen and you're, you know, uh, simulating being in the, uh, some kind of a, what do they call it? The French race. At any rate, this is very low impact. And these recumbent bikes or exercisers are designed specifically for people that have either, maybe they're recovering from a knee surgery or injury to their leg, or like me, they have lung illness or maybe a heart condition. And so it's supposed to be something just to keep them, get some movement back and kind of build up a very low impact amount of endurance. So it's very low resistance. Now, this has a knob where you can set the resistance, to a little bit more, a little bit less. And I've got it set to, what I think is a kind of an approximation of where it probably would have been at work. Now, some of the more expensive exercise bikes, that I could have opted for have like a knob where it has like actual settings, maybe 8 settings or 16 settings. This doesn't. This just tightens it or loosens it by feel, more or less. So it's a little less, um, it's a little less precise, I guess. But it seems to be doing the job, and I'm going to try to add to these exercises some of the other things that I did at pulmonary rehab. One of the things that we also did is we worked with these stretch bands, these resistance bands, and you tie them up to something on the wall or whatever, and you do like pull-ups with them or these kind of or rowing motions or whatever. And I don't have any stretch bands, and I'm going to look at that and see, if they're real expensive, I'll have to find some other way to mimic those type of exercises without buying them. But hopefully, maybe I can get something like that. Um, I would like to try to, put together a full routine of exercises as close, to approximate as closely as possible what I was doing in the rehab. And if I'm successful, it will be something that I will be able to do indefinitely here. So I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, that's what's going on here. And like I say, there's so many other things to talk about. It's been a while. As you can tell, one of the things I did, they're just starting to open up, hair salons and barbershops this month. And I think it's too early to do that. I don't think there's really any safe way to get that close to people at this point. So I think it's a big mistake. However, I know people are desperate and they're already making appointments, to get these things done. And And I know that there are a lot of people that are, frankly, they know somebody that does this kind of stuff. They might not be, certified or whatever, but they cut hair or whatever, and they've kind of broken the stay-at-home rules by, I need to get a haircut, or my kid needs to get a haircut. We're going to heck with it. We're going to see so and so and have the hair done. So I mean, I know that realistically, that's what's going on. I can't afford to take uh, that chance. So I have a pair of I don't know, it's like a little trimmer, and it has all these different attachments. I bought this long time ago, and I frankly I use it sometimes to shave my beard before I shave if I've let my beard grow too much. Um, and I've never used all the attachments. It has different size attachments. The biggest one, which leaves about this much hair. Anyway, I sheared my whole scalp with this, and it's not the most accurate way to do this thing, and I kind of butchered myself in a couple of places that I'm embarrassed about. But hey, nobody's going to see me really um, from those angles for a while anyway. So I can't really get a good look at my back, and of course, every time I cut my hair this short, I get a little calic here, which you can see. But you can see where I kind of went a little too close here, and I don't know how I did that, but at any rate, I kind of skidded a little bit too much there. And I don't know how even the back is. I tried to, do the kind of scissor thing by taking, um, but what I found is that, you get the comb and you do this. Well, at any rate, I tried doing that as best I could, but two things. First of all, you can't really see the back, so you have no idea what you're doing. And secondly, when you're doing this in a mirror, you really have no control over where those scissors are really going. It's really hard to uh, the spatial eye hand coordination thing in the mirror is just it's a it's a real trick. So at any rate, this will have to do. You know. Anyway, I hope you are staying safe. I hope you're being sensible. I hope your state legislature has got more sense than some of the states that I'm seeing, like Florida or Georgia or Wisconsin or Texas. But um, either way, use your head, do the very best you can to stay safe. I wish you all good health until they finally come up with some kind of a bona fide treatment or vaccine for this thing so that we can all slowly get back to something close to normal again. In the meantime, I'm hoping this setup is going to allow me to make a little bit um, more frequent the occasions in which I can talk with you. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you again real soon.